Dr. Bonn, it's been one of those days. Raton High School got to go back to school in person today, and then everything changed. It's kind of like you've been saying, it just, every time we turn around, it's going to change.
Yeah, and you know, you and I have had this conversation multiple times through the year, and we've done several videos and presentations for the community, and the thing is you know, one, no good deed goes unpunished. We had a great day today. The students were back. They were excited to be back. It was a well-run day. The teachers were excited to be back, and then I was notified by the public education department that the toolkit that was approved by the state for reentry was not approved in grades 7 through 12. So we had to cease and desist our operations because the tool plan that allowed us to do the reentry plan was not approved by the medical professionals at the state level in order for us to do our reentry plan. So I'm going to be receiving a letter from the state secretary informing us that we need to cease and desist and go to all remote learning.
Okay, I have seen several questions that have popped up just in the last couple of hours, so we need to really pin down exactly what we're talking about. This is for Raton High School.
Correct.
Raton Elementary, Raton Intermediate still goes to school as
yes. So there was a reentry plan that was submitted by the district, and we worked on it together. Each site worked on it with their faculty and staff, and then we turned it in collectively as a district. That plan was approved by the New Mexico Public Education Department. But after that plan was approved, the Public Education Department came out with what they called a toolkit about how we were supposed to operate, procedural safeguards and guidelines, so that when we did get back into school, that we were meeting those procedural guidelines as outlined in our reentry plan. Our reentry plan still didn't have to change because it was a great reentry plan. The faculty and staff worked on that together. The reentry plan was only approved by the health officials for grades K through 6, as long as 6th grade was in an elementary school or an intermediate school. If it was part of a middle school, then they wouldn't be able to reenter. As you're well aware, Raton High School has 7th and 8th grade, so that will affect the 7th and 8th graders there. What their concern is, the medical professionals, as I was told on the phone by Public Education Department, is the fact that kids are going to be moving around in a middle school and a high school setting. So there was some concern about the kids moving from class to class in a high school or a middle school setting, but even some high schools throughout the state had figured out a way to get the kids to stay stationary and the teachers moved, but then the health officials were still concerned about that because the teachers would be exposed to more than the normal group of kids that they would be exposed to if they were moving from class to class. Therefore, I was informed that the health officials at the state level have not approved the toolkit that was submitted for grades 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this only impacts Raton High School at this time.
Do we think that we'll be able to get the plan approved within the next week or two, or are we looking at the rest of the semester?
I can't answer that question right now. What Public Education Department informed me today is they continuously keep resubmitting the reentry toolkit to the health officials for their approval, but at this time it has not been approved. And the biggest hang up right now is the amount of kids that have to move in a high school setting or in a middle school setting because it's not a one classroom setting like an elementary school. So that's the piece that they're getting hung up on right now. So until I believe that is figured out, I don't know if we can answer that question, but I've been told that those plans continuously are being resubmitted every day to try to get approved so that we can begin school. So to answer that question, we will be doing remote learning until we hear otherwise from Public Education Department.
Then why are we playing sports? Because you're going to have a group of kids congregating with another group of kids from a different school, and that's going to be an issue. I would think that would be an issue more so than moving around your own school.
Well, I always say this, I don't like to poke the badger, but I think you bring up a very good point, and I think that too is going to be changing sometime soon. But as you're well aware, a lot of time in our profession, the driving force typically is food service, transportation, and athletics. not always what's best academically for kids. I do believe that it is very safe in our schools for our children. I do believe that we have a great plan available for them. I believe that, you know, we even have that plan available for them in athletics, but I think with the increases in cases, and again, that was an excuse why the health officials are not approving the toolbox to reenters, because there's been a big spike in cases in New Mexico, even though New Mexico is one of the states in the United States that has the fewest amount of infection rates in the whole entire country. But as you're well aware, even in our own county, there's been some spikes, not necessarily in our zip code, but in our county, there's been some spikes. And unfortunately, they look at the spikes in county, not necessarily in individual towns or locations.
So will students be able to practice, or is that going to get shut down?
Right now, that students can practice. So what we're hearing from NMAA is that students can practice. There are some additional things that, you know, we don't know about until we actually start, like how do we use locker rooms? How do we use lockers? I know right now we can't even use lockers because we would have to sanitize those. But students and student athletes need a place to change. So there's some things that we didn't have quite figured out that, of course, now that we have practices, there's questions that we have to ask. And so they continuously are having meetings to discuss some of those issues. So those are some things that, you know, wait and see kind of things. We'll get back to the community as soon as we know the information.
Raton High School has a volleyball game Saturday with Mora. Will that go on, or will it be postponed? Right now, everything is steady as it goes. We haven't been told any other information other than we have to cease and desist our hybrid model at the high school, and that we can continue doing the distance learning model. We have not been told anything about athletics at this time, but of course we're having meetings all the time. So as soon as we find out, we will let our coaches know and our athletes know first, and then I will make sure we get that out to our community. Okay, we've been back at school and at the elementary level, the intermediate level, for over 2 weeks now. How is that going?
I got to tell you, I'm really impressed. Talking to the students, the families, and even the teachers, everybody I think has cabin fever and they're just ready to get back and do business as normal. There's been some major changes. Of course, we have the PPE requirements and we have the social distancing requirements, but it's just been really neat to get on our campuses and see smiles on kids' faces. We're still having some technology issues, and that's something that we're continuously working on. We've had some kids that have had difficulty connecting synchronously because their internet's not working at home, or they try to get on EdModem, and they get bumped out. And so we're still trying to work out some of those issues. And we recently had Los Alamos Labs come out here and install parking lot Wi-Fi in our community, so people can pull into the aquatic center, the libraries, and all of our campuses and be able to access the internet if their internet's not working at home. For our hardest hit in our community, we've purchased very few hotspots that they can check out from their principals. There are some criteria for them to do that, because we do know that the internet is extremely important, especially on those distance learning days, and more importantly at the high school now, because they don't even have the hybrid model to rely on to do the one-to-one instruction in front of a teacher. So a lot of that's got to be done over video, it has to be done remotely, it has to be done distance-wise, and so there's just a greater sense of urgency for our high school students to be able to have access to uninterrupted internet.
Going back to the high school, we've run into issues where we've had, and this has been brought up before, where we've had employers who are employing students during school time. And I know that the teachers have been a little frustrated with that and trying to explain to their students, you've got to be in school. We are in school as of now, and you need to be taking care of these classes. Today was the first day they had face-to-face, and I know I've heard that some of the teachers and a lot of the students are saying, wow, now I understand, because they weren't quite grasping some of the stuff that was being brought online. So what can we do to get employers to get the kids back to school, and then what are we going to have to try to rethink to try to get some of the understanding, or do we need to do more Zoom type face-to-face type teaching?
Well, I think you pose a very great question, and I think I have to answer it in several parts. The first is that Dr. Montoya, our high school principal, has been working with some of our local employers to let them know that, look, our students need to be in school. And even today, we had some students that didn't show up, and when we called to ask where they were at work. So they were working when they should have been at school, because we had about a third of students show up actually for classes today that had enrolled to be there. And of course, we asked some questions. So that was the first thing. The second thing that I want to say is that, we live in a rural community, and finding quality employment and people that are going to work hard is difficult. So, I can understand our employers are saying, hey, we need people to help us in our industries here because we got to make money too. And now we have some people in the industry that we typically wouldn't have, but because of COVID, they're available to us. And lastly, I think the question that we need to say is, will school ever look the same again? I know that the vote is out, the jury's out. I can certainly tell you that I've talked with many families that have said, I want my kids in school. They're driving me crazy. They're eating me out of the house. I can't help my kids instructionally. I want them in front of their teachers. And I would say that that's the vast majority. But I've also talked with some families that have said, this distance online learning has been very convenient for me, because I don't have to get my kid up in the morning and fight with them for an hour and a half to get dressed and to take a shower and to feed them and get them to the bus stop, because they can get online and they can do it remotely. And then we have a group of people that, the jury's still out with them also. They're letting their kids try out the online learning. We've even had a few in the last few weeks at both schools that have said, we tried it, it's not working, we need them back in school. But we've also had some families that said, hey, the synchronous learning is not working, because if I'm at work all day, there's nobody with my child to help them get online and to finish their packets and that stuff. And you guys are only offering that from this time to this time, and that's when I'm at work. So I'm going to elect to go with a full online model so that I can make sure that I can be there to support my children. So I think the way things are going to look in the near future, even post-COVID, is going to change immensely. And I think that's something that we need to take into consideration, that these changes and accommodations that we're making for families, I think is something that we will probably need to continue and support from here on out, even though the vast majority of people still want their kids in front of a classroom teacher in the in-person brick and mortar school. There's going to be a few that have said, this is working for me and I need to continue this, and if we don't offer it, they'll just go somewhere else and find somebody that will.
The state of New Mexico kind of got caught with their pants down when it comes to curriculum for online learning. Is Raton going to start looking at creating online learning packages or curriculum? I know there are some courses that the state really doesn't have anything set for curriculum, and the teachers are having to create that curriculum as they go along. Does the Raton look like they're going to try to have some help creating those curriculum packages, or have you found curriculum packages out there somewhere that can be brought in and help the teachers out in that respect?
To answer that question, there is no silver bullets. We're finding things out as we go. I mean, just like I told you about the whole locker, we never had a conversation about locker rooms and changing for athletes and PE, and then school starts, and guess what? We got to start figuring out how kids are going to get dressed out for physical education, and then that carried into what are we going to do in athletics. And it's that kind of thing that's happening even academically in our classroom. We're finding out that there's some areas that we can improve upon. But what I will say is our teachers have done a pretty good job of figuring it out and supplementing the curriculum, and I don't think anybody can replace the quality of our teachers. It's a little bit of work. It's not something that we ever anticipated, but as I've said to you now in 2 videos, those of us that are the most accommodating and flexible are going to be the most successful. And that's just an attitude that we're going to have to take, because every day we're going to be faced with new adversities, and we need to overcome those adversities so that we can move forward. And again, I have all the faith in the world of our faculty and staff. I think I got first-round Super Bowl draft picks. I really do. Watching the work that these amazing individuals have done with their principals and at their sites. Even today, watching the things that they were doing with kids that haven't been in a classroom brick and mortar since March, and having to reteach routines and procedures and get kids excited about school again. It wasn't very difficult, because I think many of our kids wanted to get back in school, but it's been different.
I think some of the things that I've heard is that the kids were of course, having trouble getting online and stuff like that. When the kids that were having that problem got to school today, it's like the light bulb came on. They were helped
Yes.
by the teacher who could get them into what they needed to, show them what they needed to do, and they understood better. So what about the kids that didn't get to school?
Yeah, well, we just got to keep doing the best job that we can, and I've spoken with the board. I speak to the community. You know, I'm here pleading with our community today. The most important thing that we can get kids to do, no matter what platform you chose, distance, hybrid, we need to get kids in school. We need to get them logged in. We need to get them to complete their packets. You know, this time it counts. In March, we were just supposed to provide enrichments and supporting activities. This time the grade counts. It goes on your transcript. It counts to promotion. It counts to being moved to the next grade level. It counts towards graduation. And so we are closely monitoring that. And a lot of people are a little confused because in March it didn't count. Everybody's grade was sort of put in whatever it was at the third quarter before we left for COVID, and we were providing supporting and enrichment activities. It counts now. There's also some nuances that a lot of people didn't know. For example, Edmodum or Edmetum, it gives you a progress, and then it also gives you a grade. So the grade is on the last assignments completed, averaged, but we have kids that have done 2 assignments, but they should have had 20 assignments done, so they're only at 2% progress. And the parents will look at the computer and say, oh, well, my son's got a 98% in class. Well, yeah, because they've only completed 2 of the 20 assignments, because this program doesn't allow us to put zeros in like we would in a normal grade book. So there's a lot of parents that are alarmed when they get a call from the teacher or the principal saying, you know, Johnny's not passing his class. What do you mean? When I went on his online class, he's got a 98%. No, he's got a 98% for the last 2 assignments he completed, but he hasn't completed the other 18 assignments, and those aren't averaged in until the end when we put them in the grade book during grades, because that computer program doesn't do it. So there's some things that we need to do to educate kids, but the most important thing is no matter what platform our families have chosen, it counts, and we need them to log in and we need them to participate. And most importantly, complete the modules, because the modules is helping them master the curriculum, which are skills they're going to need in the 21st century global economy.
Okay. Do the students or the parents need to be calling Dr. Montoya if they're having a little bit of a problem with a specific class, or should they be calling the teacher? Because I know, you know, it's that old adage, how many times does it change between 1, 2, 3, or 4 different people as it goes? So is it better for the students to talk to the teachers and ask them rather than call Dr. Montoya, who is in charge of everything?
Yes, and I say that, and if you call me, I'm going to direct you back to the school, and the school's going to direct you back to the teacher, because I can't possibly know what every single teacher, every period, every day, every assignment looks like. So you really want to go directly to the source. So I recommend everybody, if there's a concern or there's a question or there's a comment, directly communicate with your teacher. All their emails are available on the website. They also, all students have been assigned an advisory, especially at the high school. So if there's difficulty with a program per se or a schedule or anything, I would recommend that the parents or the student get a hold of their advisory teacher that can help them in the general sense of things. If they're still not getting any direction, then I would ask them to reach out to the school principal, which is Dr. Montoya. But I would go to the source first, because even Dr. Montoya is teaching some classes right now because we're short a couple teachers. And so there was some parents were wondering why the principal was sending failure notices home. Why wasn't the teacher? Well, it's because she's actually the teacher of record in those 2 classes. We've hired teachers since then, but at the time she was the teacher of record. So there's, you know, we're just in uncharted territory right now, and we're figuring things out as we're going. But I will tell you, I think we're doing one of the best jobs of any of the school districts in the state, and we've been told that on numerous occasions. We had some of the best plans turned in as far as the reentry plan. Our students are doing a pretty good job. We have a surveillance model for testing our faculty and staff. We have one of the highest rates of testing in the whole state, and I was told that by the state health official, the state health office, when I spoke to them last Thursday, because they're able to pull up, and they were very proud of the fact that, you know, we're taking this very serious, because we don't want any excuses for the school to get closed down, but let alone that one did today. So.
Okay, one of the other things that kind of in the past that was brought up. You know, you had made comment about COVID not being covered by the insurance, and I think we probably need to clarify some of that. The school has insurance.
Yes, and and I've asked the media to redact that statement on numerous occasions. There's a lot of misinformation that goes out there. People hear things at a board meeting and then, for whatever reason, it doesn't come out the way that it was stated. So what was stated is there is no litigation or liability insurance for COVID-related issues. That's what was stated to the board. We currently have insurance for the district. We're currently being covered. But if there's any COVID-related lawsuits or litigation, we're not being covered for those under our New Mexico Public Insurance Group. So that's what was shared with the board and stated to the board. But then it was shared in the local media that it was stated that we have no insurance in our school, and that's not the case. We also had discussed, we have other insurances. We actually buy insurance, or we buy litigation through attorneys. So if we were litigated, we would have to pay our attorneys to represent us in a court of law. It wouldn't be covered under an insurance per se. So it doesn't mean we don't even have protections for litigation, but we would have to assume the cost of paying attorneys to represent us. We also have workman's comp, who has stated to us that there is no protections for COVID-related litigation. So if we have individuals or employees that, don't follow the rules and they're involved, there could potentially be denied workman's compensation. So that's what was shared with the board. But we currently are being covered by the New Mexico Public Insurance Group.
Okay, to reiterate where we have come from today, no school, no face-to-face school at Raton High School. There will be school at the intermediate school, and there will be school at Longfellow Elementary, but no face-to-face school at Raton High School.
Yes, so
it's strictly, at this point, online learning at Raton High School.
Right now, until we hear otherwise, it is all distance learning at Raton High School and Raton, the 7th and 8th graders that also attend there. We still have the hybrid model at Longfellow and Raton Intermediate School.
Sports will continue to practice. Sports will continue to happen as of today, subject to change.
Subject to change. Everything we've talked about here today is subject to change, and my goal is to keep the community informed. I'm optimistic. I really am. I mean, I think there's going to be some good things that come out of this. The technology is getting up to date. Our teachers are doing amazing things. Our students are eager to get back. I think we're going to see some amazing things once we get kids back in our schools. But at the same time, it changes from day to day, and we can't allow this to, rain on our parade. We should just be looking forward to that day that we can be back with our kids and giving them the best possible education that we can. But in the meanwhile, I can tell you that our teachers are working very, very hard to make sure that that distance learning is as best that we can offer. And it's not perfect, but every day we try to improve upon that, and that is a testament to the work ethic and the passion and the dedication that we have of our faculty and staff.
Okay, Dr. Bonn, is there any other things that we have forgotten about or that we need to mention real quick?
We forget about a lot of things all the time, but I'm willing to come and meet with you whenever you would like. I encourage everybody, just to be patient with us, but also communicate with us. I know there's a lot of frustrated people out there, but again, we're learning this as we go, but we are committed to making it the best we possibly can. We want to take care of our children in Raton. I was just asked to do an interview today out of Stanford University because we're one of the top 6 performing school districts in New Mexico. And they want to talk about the benefits of being in a small rural community where kids still have a name and they're not just a number. And so there's a lot of things that we really should consider even in the times of COVID, because I can't imagine what it must be like in those big, large school districts like Albuquerque and Santa Fe and Las Cruces. Everybody has an identity, and we're small enough that we can really manipulate and change and accommodate everybody and make it the best experience as possible.
Okay, very good. But one more time, just so that everybody can understand and make sure that they understand exactly what's going on, is no school, no face-to-face school at Raton High School. You're still working online. You've still got to check in. There will be school at the intermediate school and school at the Longfellow in the hybrid forms.
Yes, so that is correct.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bonn.
Thank you.